Good morning, Aneesah McNamee.
Hi, Peg.
And I usually say Aneesah McNamee, formerly known as, but you're not of that ilk, you're not of that generation, so Aneesah.
Right.
You came as Aneesah, you've always been Aneesah.
Correct.
So welcome.
Thank
you
you
for coming to do your story. Now, it looks exciting. I see that you were born in Stuttgart, Germany.
Yes.
Can you tell
Stuttgart.
us? Stuttgart.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit how all of that, how you were born there and how you're sitting here today?
Well, my my birth mother
Okay.
is German, and actually was a refugee from Czechoslovakia, and she ended up in Germany, and I was created, but I was adopted. I was put in an orphanage, and I was adopted.
In Germany?
In Germany.
Okay.
And the McNamees, my adopted father, Bill McNamee, William, was stationed in Germany after the war, and he's in the Army. And so they adopted my older brother, who is from Munich, and then they went back to the United States, and then he was restationed in Heidelberg, and that's where they adopted me in Stuttgart, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I became a McNamee. So we stayed in Germany until I was about 5. I went to American school to learn English. They changed my name.
To?
Well, my birth name was Ingrid.
Oh, I love that. Ingrid? That's
Ingrid
right.
Ingrid Annie Schuldes was my birth name. And when I came to the United States, they changed my name and, got naturalized citizen, changed my name, learned English, everything. So they changed my name to Heidi. And I have to tell you that, and I've never liked the name Heidi. I've always couldn't stand it. And everybody always teased me, oh, are you going up to the mountains to see your grandfather and, Peter. And actually I dated a guy in high school named Peter, and so it was even worse. So when I was about 20, I changed my name.
Oh, so you gave yourself Aneesah.
Actually, I didn't give myself the name. I belonged to a group when I was 18, and actually I still belong to it, but it's sort of a meditation, and I joined the group through a really good friend of mine, and that is where I kind of learned to go inside of myself and meditate and find out who I was inside. And my life just changed when I was able to quiet myself and go to that place. And so a lot of the people in this group do change their name because their self has changed.
Yes, yes.
And so that's where I got the name Aneesah. And actually there is a woman, this group originated in Indonesia, and there is an old wise woman in Indonesia. Her name, well, we call her Rahahu? I can't remember. Anyway, so I wrote her, and people said, just write her and ask her. And
ask her what?
Ask her for a new name.
Oh.
She gave people new names.
Okay.
So she wrote me back, and I just, they say, just tell her a little bit about yourself and what your name was, and it was Ingrid, and then it was Heidi, and then it's just like, I really want my true self, So about 3 months later, I get a letter from Indonesia with the name Aneesah. And so the test was, I was working at the hospital in Santa Cruz at the time, and my best friend, I showed her the letter, and I said, okay, the test is if you all call me Aneesah and stop calling me Heidi. And from that day on, nobody called me Heidi again.
Okay.
So it stuck. And it was true. My mother still called me Heidi. But
what does it mean?
Aneesah?
Yeah.
Aneesah is an Arabic name.
Okay.
It's a name from every country in the world, just spelled differently, but the way I spell it, it's Arabic. And it means a good friend, a loyal friend. And
Beautiful.
So when she sent it, and it just resonated with me. So
then you change your name officially, and
I changed it, through Social Security, everything, yeah. So, yeah.
And your adoptive parents, where are they with that? With the
My
name?
mom, my dad was very good with it.
Okay.
And he just looked, I told him, and he said, I can still see him saying it, the phrase, a rose is a rose is a rose, by any name still smells the same. And he told me that. And I mean, we
Yeah.
both just
Wow.
kind of looked at each other.
Yeah.
And so it was fine. My mom still called me Heidi every now and then. And my brother still calls me Heidi just to tease me. But he knows. They get it. I mean, it's been a long time.
That's,
So
that's what brothers are for. They tease
Yes.
us, drive us nuts, but
Yes.
they love us.
yes, they do. Yes. I have two brothers, one older, Greg, who was born in Munich. And he lives in Colorado. And my younger brother, Patrick, lives in Nevada, in Virginia City.
And you stay in touch with them, and
Oh, very
Yeah,
much so,
good,
yeah.
good,
Yeah, my little
good.
brother and I are very close. And what's funny is that a lot of people think, "Oh, you look so similar." And it's like, "Oh, I can see the family resemblance." And none of us are blood related. And
well,
but
that
I think
happens with adopted. You know, husband and wife, they say they've lived together for so long, they begin to look like each other.
Yeah.
I think that happens with kids. I have a niece who's adopted. She's a spitting image of her mother,
yeah.
and the boy of his dad, of my brother. Yeah.
Yeah. And I kind of look like my dad. I have a picture of him he passed away like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And I have a picture of him on my desk. And his smile and my smile, it's the same. I mean, I've compared pictures and it's like, oh my God, I do look like him. So, yeah. So it's kind of
Let
ironic.
people think what they want to think.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's cool.
So then tell us now, then you went to school. I mean, what?
Well, we came to the United States when I was 6.
Your story's a little different for me as we're talking, because ours is kind of,
Yeah.
when you entered, you went to Catholic high school,
Yeah.
Catholic grade school, whatever, and entered. So your story is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's the new story.
It's the new story.
Yes.
It's very different. Because, I came to the United States. We lived back east. And eventually in Virginia, because my dad was in the Army. And he worked at the Pentagon and everything, Lieutenant Colonel R.W. McNamee. And so, and then we moved to California. And that's how I got to California.
Okay.
And we lived in Corona Del Mar, Newport Beach area. And went to Catholic school, actually, in Newport Beach, taught by the St. Joseph of Carondelet Sisters
right.
from Los Angeles. And but I was a troublemaker. So
I'm surprised at that, Aneesah.
yeah, I was a rebel, total rebel. Yeah.
And grade school, probably high school too.
Grade school, high school, yeah, it was pretty bad. But then I had a rude awakening. And actually I met a person who I'm still very close to this day. And she sort of told me like it was. So it's like, what are you doing? It's like, you want to end up like in jail or dead or,
So it really was serious.
So it was serious,
Yeah.
and we became very close, and she helped me a lot. And actually, it was through her that I went into the group that I got my name from. And that's where I learned to become a human being and get in touch with the world,
Interesting.
And so then I left home and lived all over Southern California, and I eventually ended up in Santa Cruz. And when I was 19, 20 years old,
Okay.
I moved to Santa Cruz and worked as a nurse's aide for 20 years while I went to school.
To our hospital.
No, to
No?
various hospitals.
Oh, okay.
Actually in about 3 different nursing homes in Santa Cruz.
I bet you were great at that.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I
you did
absolutely
good.
loved it.
Yeah.
And the one place that I worked on SoCal Boulevard, I worked there for about 15 years. And
As a nurse's aide?
as a nurse's aide. And I went to school. They asked me to be a PT assistant, an aide, a PT aide, while I was thinking about going to school. So I did that for a while, and so I worked in PT and realized that I really wanted to do that. I was going to nursing school, and then I realized I really wanted to do physical therapy. It was more holistic to me and really helping the person, get healthier. And at Hillhaven, it was where I don't know, I learned to love another person, except for myself. I was not the center of the universe. Hello.
Right.
And I had some very close people that I worked with, patients, that we had the same group every single day, and I worked with the same group until they died, and one woman that I was very close to, and her daughter, and I'm still close to her daughter. Her daughter still lives in Santa Cruz. And so it was a very profound period for me. And then I got a job at Community Hospital. I applied for the job, and a person that was sort of mentoring me in physical therapy said, you need to apply for this job at Community Hospital in Santa Cruz. So I got the job, and it was the little mom and pop store in Santa Cruz on Frederick Street, and I ran the physical therapy department, and they contracted out physical therapists. Well, about 2 years later, Dominican came and knocked on the door, and they bought the hospital. And so it's been sort of a joke that I came with the package.
Oh, got it.
So, yeah, and Julie Heyer came to our facility to do merger talks. And so since I knew everybody at Community, and it was just a very small hospital, since I knew everybody elected me to be the mouth. And we were going to give them a hard time.
Them being our place?
Dominican, yeah.
Dominican.
Because here we are, just the mom and pop, So anyway, she came, and I zeroed in on her name tag, and it was the OP. And it was like, what is that? I mean, I knew CSJ, I knew, the Sisters of Mercy, I knew all of these.
So you'd never been to Dominican Hospital?
No.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of zeroed in on her name tag, and everybody's looking at me like, come on, what are you doing? And I said, oh, wait a minute, I want to ask her what this OP stands for. And so Julie said, it's the Order of Preachers, and she started talking about the Adrian Dominican Sisters, and I was like enthralled. It was like, wow, okay. And so it was just a matter of time. I mean, our hospital was bought by Dominican, and I started working at Dominican in the outpatient therapy, physical therapy. And then I had the opportunity to go to school and get my license, and through Dominican, and I worked and went to school. And so I got my license as a physical therapy assistant, which is a licensed position in California. So that's how I got to know the Adrians. And there was one sister, Diana Pellegrino.
Yes.
Who was like the Mother Teresa of Santa Cruz.
She the one that did something with the...
She did the tattoo removals. Yeah, at Dominican. And so she started inviting me to come with her to go on rounds down to the homeless shelters down in town, Santa Cruz. And we would have dinner together, and then she invited me to prayer. And so I just started doing a lot of things with the sisters. And that's how it happened.
It happened.
It happened. And I thought, well, okay, all right. I'll put my application in. I mean, why not,
So you put your application in, and you wrote to whoever was in charge at the time, Janet?
Right. No, it was Pat Walter.
Oh, Pat Walter. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, I put in my application, and I was still at Dominican, and the big buzz was that Pat Walter, who was the prioress, was coming to Dominican to do a visit because, they were a sponsored institution. And they were coming to Frederick Street, where I worked, and it was outpatient. And all of our offices were in the old ICU unit, so they were all of these rooms, like here. So everybody said, well, she's really busy, and, she's not going to have any time to, talk to anybody, and da-da-da-da-da. So we were told, everybody come out of their office and, greet her and all this other. So she came through, and she just came through, and I just looked at her, and we locked eyes. And she didn't know who I was, and she just, went out the door. And so I thought, okay, well, all right. And not 30 seconds later, the door opened. They were electric doors. And she came back in, and she came up to me, and she took my hand. And she said, you're Aneesah, aren't you? And I said, yeah. She says, I'm praying for you. And it just,
How did, wait,
It blew me
what did
away.
I miss? How did she know who you were?
Well, I had a name tag,
You wrote,
and I already applied.
you already applied.
Yeah.
But she didn't, yeah.
I had never met her.
Got it,
But
got
she obviously saw my application, and she knew I worked there.
Got it. That's probably
So-
why she was so interested in the place, too. To meet you, seriously.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
But I will never forget that,
Uh-huh.
that she turned around and came back and acknowledged me. I will never, ever forget that. That just
That's
blew me
wonderful.
away.
You've told her that.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Pat was, she's a wonderful person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fact that she recognized you, even though you had your name tag out, maybe she didn't see the name tag.
Well, and we had
Yeah.
also kind of locked eyes, so I think it was just that
I just
thing.
think God works in strange ways.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So then what happened? Then you,
Well, I had applied, and I came to Adrian twice for a come and see. It took me a long time. I'm a very cautious person.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I've done a lot of things in my life, and so it's like, oh, Aneesah, don't jump into this too fast. You got to check it out here. So, but every time I came was a really good experience. And I met the sisters at the DLC.
okay.
And the one sister, she's passed away, was, oh, now I can't remember her name, Schwartz.
Marie Urban.
Irby, yeah, Marie
Irby.
Irby, yeah. And she was an amigo, and
Yeah.
they paired us up with a sister at the DLC.
Got it,
So
okay.
I was with her, and so she said, well, hop on, kid, I'm taking you for a tour. So I stood on the back of her amigo, and we just jetted all over the place.
She's a neat woman.
She's a very cool woman. And so we rode, and another person, Una DC.
Yeah, yeah. She was from the West, yeah.
Yeah, so we talked a lot. And my sponsor was Rita Eileen. So we met a couple times, once a month. So it just really felt right. And I just thought, well, okay, just do it. And it's always, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work.
It's not the end of your life,
It's
exactly.
formation, it's discernment. And that's what this time is all about. So I thought, okay, I'll do it. So this California girl who grew up at the beach, surfer girl, I was a surfer
No
girl.
snow.
No, yeah, it's like, oh my God. So I came, and I was like, what am I doing here?
So when did you actually enter?
In
year?
September 1995.
95, okay.
So in 21 will be my silver jubilee.
Oh my, it's coming. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that's
another
wonderful.
year.
Yeah,
I know. Hard to believe.
right, right.
Yeah,
So you came.
I came.
And you had formation. Was anybody else with you?
No, I entered alone.
Yeah.
And the few people that entered before me left.
Yeah.
And then after me, there was a lot of people that came,
Yeah.
and we're all together. And since there are no crowds, since I entered, we sort of call ourselves a crowd.
Yeah. Very
So,
good.
but yeah, I entered, and the first year it was like a rude awakening. California girl to the Midwest, it's like, oh my God. And all my friends, it was like, are you crazy? It's like, well, got to take a risk every now and then. I was a risk taker.
That
So.
you were preaching to them. You were preaching
Yeah.
something to them, and they couldn't get it. You probably didn't get it yourself.
I didn't, and I
No.
just thought, you just got to do it.
Yeah.
So,
25 years almost.
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. And I mean, I remember one thing that somebody said to me, and I say it to myself every single day, and it was in my interview to be accepted. And somebody said it to me afterwards, too. And I had asked the question, well, how do you know? I mean, are you ever really sure? It's like, how do you really know? And this person, a sister, who had been around for a while, she just looked at me and she says, honey, you never really know.
No.
It's like, it's every day you get up and you look in the mirror and you say yes.
And you just know.
You just say yes to every
right.
day. And every day I remember that. And I look
Yeah.
at myself in the mirror and it's like, yes, yes.
Even though you might like to say no a few days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course.
But you do.
Yes.
Yeah. We all do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not easy. I think any change or any choice that one makes, it's not easy. You give up one thing for another. But it's always, for me, it's that daily yes.
What
So-
have been some significant, now I'm not going to ask you about the Vatican Council, you weren't in at that time,
No.
no. How did our most recent gathering this summer, how did that impact you one way or another?
It was very energizing.
Uh-huh.
The 65 and under
Yeah.
gathered afterwards, which was very good.
Good.
And there's a group of us that gather. There's a group of us, the Dominican Women of Fire,
Right.
which is 65 and under, all congregations
Yeah,
across
not just
the
Dominican,
country.
they're congregations, yeah. But
Well,
yeah.
it is Dominican, but it's not just
Dominican Women of
Adrian.
Fire, yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
So we have different groups, and a group of Dominican Women of Fire came last year to our 65 and under. And then this year it was just the Adrians, which was good because I think we need to get together too, just us.
Right.
And talk about how are we going to do this? How are we going to go together into the future?
Exactly.
And I think that's the big question. Because personally, I really believe that the Dominican charism is going to go on forever. It's been here for 850 years. It's going to go on. However that's going to be. I don't know. Nobody knows. But we're just doing
But
it.
you're doing it.
We're doing it every
together.
day. So it's going to happen.
And as we look at the future, those that are 65 and over look at, what's going to happen, and you want to be a part of it. You know you're not going to be a part of it, but you can be a part of the planning bit of it.
Right.
New life is happening.
Right.
before
And I
us.
always say, because some people have told me that, and I have some really good friends, older sisters, and it's
Yes,
like,
you do.
I take you with me.
Yeah.
That's why I'm here. That's why any of us are here. It's because we're connected to you. We'll always be connected to you. I'll be connected to Adrian and to the sisters that came before us. They built this place. I will take you with us. Mother Camilla, the imagery I always have is of her when she came here and she was walking around in the apple fields crying. It's like, what am I doing? And it's like, Mother Camilla, who started this, she was so human in that. And I always remember that. It's like we're always human, we always have doubts, but we go forward.
With each other.
With each other, and we take each other
Yeah.
with us.
Yeah. That's very comforting. Very
Yes.
comforting. So what are you about right now? You have a very interesting ministry with, you are a graphic artist, you tell us what you do for relative to your ministry.
Well,
Besides being present to all of us, and you're involved in a lot here on campus. but-
right. Well, when I entered, I did not have an official degree,
Right.
and so we needed to get a degree, and so I was always kind of an artistic.
Right.
I always did art.
Beautiful.
Along with my job, as a physical therapist assistant, I always did art. But in the congregation, to get my degree, it was, go to Siena and get your degree in photography. So I got my BFA in photography. And when I finished and I made vows, and I was invited to come here to work as a special projects person.
Right.
In graphic design. Janet Capone was the prioress, and she invited me to
Right.
work here. And it was the best time. I mean, it was so creative. And
Yes, and you were very beautiful creativity. That
Yeah.
was-
yeah, I mean, and I really learned a lot from the other people that worked here. And so then I was invited to go to graduate school. So I went to Savannah to get my MFA in graphic design, which was fabulous. I just loved it. And I was in the South for 12 years, actually, and then I came back here to Adrian. And right now I'm working as a freelance graphic designer, and I have about 6 very solid regular clients, different clients from all over. And it's exciting. I love it because it's such a diverse,
That's great.
nonprofit helping, and it's like very inspiring to be able to put into word and picture other people's stories. So that's what I love to do. So yeah.
How do you want to be remembered, Aneesah?
Oh,
You're kind of young to be saying this, but anyway, at this time of your life,
I'll be 64 this year.
it's very young.
I know. I know. I think how I would want to be remembered is as a creative person that used her gifts and her talents for the common good, but for the greater good, for the preaching, and to tell the story.
And you are preaching, yes.
Yeah, and actually, and to be myself. And yes, she was herself. Oh yes, Aneesah, you know.
Aneesah's herself.
Yeah.
Maybe calm down.
Yeah, I've been told that. I think too, to have the passion. To have passion is very Dominican. And yes, I need to learn to tone it down, but I'm very proud of it.
No, that's
I don't
your
ever
passion.
want to
That's who
lose
you are.
it.
No, your energy. Your energy is.
Yeah, and I encourage
catchy.
other people to keep that. We have younger women coming in all over the Dominican family, and very passionate, very on fire for the
That's
charism
wonderful.
and for
Right,
life.
right.
Don't ever lose that.
What's your parting words to us? Those that are watching this, your family, your friends, the congregation? A quote, a saying, just your words of wisdom to us. And you are a wise woman.
Oh, wow.
You are, yeah.
One of the sisters that is very significant to me, Sister Mary Philip Ryan.
Got her down here, yeah.
And we were so different and from different walks of life. She was 101 years old when she passed. And generations apart, different upbringing, different life in the congregation, but we always connected on a spiritual level. And I want to always be that way, to be able to connect with other people, that I am not above or beneath anybody, that I am with you, and to be with one another on, on the journey, but, and in reality, that's so cliche, but, life is just every day, and to be with one another. Mary Phil was always with me.
Yeah.
And I can still hear her. And I remember when we clicked and we were just staring at each other and we were saying the very same thing spiritually, what our hearts were saying. And I always want to remember that.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. Anything else? This is your last chance to say something to us.
No, I'm good.
You're good? Good. Well, thank you ever so much, Aneesah. Your story is very interesting. I guess I did not know it in the succession as you told it. I knew a lot of little bits about you, but you're very special. So thank you for all you do for others, for all you do for the congregation, and just for who you are. And thank you for looking at that sign, the OP sign on Julie, and responding to it. It's amazing what our name tags can preach, huh?
Yes.
Interesting.
Yes,
Interesting.
it is.
Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you, Patty.